magistrates and all the other provincial officials to come to the dedication of the image that he, watch it, that he set up. So all of these folks that he called and he summoned, they assembled for the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up, and they stood before it. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, you know there's always a loud one in the house. Then the herald loudly proclaimed, this is what you are commanded to do. O people, nations of men in every language, as soon as you hear the sound, as soon as you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipes, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship not God, but worship the image of the gold that King Nebuchadnezzar set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. Therefore, as soon as they heard the sound and the horn and all of the sound that was presented, the people fell down and they worshiped the image God, the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. In verse number 8, and it was at this time that there were 3 folks who decided they were not going to do what the rest of the folks decided to do. And so the astrologers, if you will, there were people who saw this and they came running, telling. I know y'all don't know folks that go run and tell. But they came running and telling to King Nebuchadnezzar. They said to him, there are 3 folks that you place over a province. And they have decided that they do not want to do as you commanded. Their names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And he said to them, they ain't paying attention to you. Verse number 13. Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he brought them before them. And then they said, is it true that you have the audacity not to do as I have commanded? He says, I'm going to give you one more time. I'm going to make the sound one more time. And it is the command that you bow down and worship. Failing to do so, you will be thrown into the fire. We know the story. We know the story. And so the sound came again. And they didn't fall down. Verse number 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, because he had been asked, why don't you? And then they said in verse number 16, I don't think it's necessary for me to explain to you why I won't do what you commanded. Y'all ain't gonna get me in there. There were 3 folks, y'all, who decided to get a little bold. And tell him that it is not necessary for me to explain to you while I decided not to do wrong. I wish somebody would help me. They went to the man and told the man, I am not going to explain to you while I shall not bow. And so he got a little more upset. He said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the people to set the fire 7 times hotter than it was before. Y'all know the story. And so he says, I'm going to send folks, if you will, and I'm going to take you and throw you into the fire. What's amazing about it is that the same folks that threw them in the fire got burned up. See, the problem is we got a problem sending folks to hell. Am I getting a little comfortable here? Can I get comfortable? Can I treat you like this in my house? We have a problem sending folks to hell. Everybody say you ought to go to. See, if I was in my house, I would do a little different. But she asked me, do I want my water in a glass? No, we do it ghetto style. I want mine in a bottle. The liquid may be changed, but I ain't changed my style. I still drink out the. So here you have, y'all, there were individuals who threw these these individuals into the fire, but yet they were burned up. And then they went into the fire, and you know the story says that there were 3, and then they looked in and there was 4. And he said, I threw 3 in, but there was 4. There's 4. And there was an increase. There was a 1 increase. There was 4. I threw them in the fire, but there was an increase. I threw them in the fire. There was 3, but I threw them in the fire. There was an increase. I threw them in the fire. There was an increase. In the middle of the fire, there was an So if you will, I kind of looked at this as God and said, God, now, what is it that you really want me to tell the people? Because he says, I want you to share with them really what's in the scripture. And if we go back to verse number 1, you will find that Nebuchadnezzar built, if you will, he had built an image of gold like himself. And this image, if you will, was 90 feet high. And it was 9 feet wide. He said, God, why is it that you gave dimensions about how this image is? He says, I want you to explain to the people, if you will, that the number 9, if you will, is the number of finality. It is the number of judgment. It is the number of ending, if you will. And so 9 feet wide, it was finality, if you will. It was the end. And why then was it 90 feet high? Because 9 times 10, if you will, is 90. The number 10 is divine order. And so what happened was finality was multiplied by divine order, which gave you the height. I wish somebody helped me. And so what you find here is it was by divine order that King Nebuchadnezzar's order has now come into an end. I wish somebody catch me in here. Here you have a man, y'all, who thought he was all of that and then some. And so he had a dream, if you will, in chapter number 2. And now it is now being fruition in chapter number 3. He just didn't know his reign was almost over. He wanted everybody to bow down to him, but by divine order. He says, I am removing. Y'all do know King Uzziah. He says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. There were too many people, if you will, that was looking at King Nebuchadnezzar. And he says in chapter number 3, this is what's going to happen. He says, you're going to build your finality. So I find here that he built, if you will, this 90 feet high and 9 feet wide, and he set it on the plain of Dura. Now, if you study, if you will, the plain of Dura is really a valley of Dura. If you look at the pretense of it is, it was really a valley. So he says, what you're doing is that you're building your destruction in the valley. Now watch it, y'all. Just talked about him throwing them into hell, and now he's building his image in the valley. I wish somebody catch it. You'll catch it when you get home. But watch this. He builds it in the valley, and the valley is beneath the earth. In order to have a valley, you got to go beneath. I wish somebody help me. They threw him in the fire. That's where it was all ending up. But yet, he in the beginning built his temple in the valley. And this is what I like about it. Because all of these instruments, if you will, all of these people, were gathered and they were summoned and they came running because King Nebuchadnezzar spoke. And so they came running, if you will. And here they are. They stood before the image and they worshiped the image at the sound. But watch this. I come to let you know that there's a different sound going on. You got to be careful with the sound. You got to be careful with the sound, because the sound will mess you up. If you're not listening to the right sound, you might bow down, and it wasn't your turn to bow. The sound of God is a different sound going on. Not every church has got the sound. Not every ministry got the right sound. They got the instruments playing. I understand that your musician is away, and it's just by divine order, because there wasn't supposed to be a sound in the house. The only sound was to be the word of the Lord. There's a sound. He wants you to catch it. He says there is a sound, but the people heard the sound and they bowed down to the image at the sound.